Hi, welcome to the Best of Mount Shasta. This is the show that primarily interviews those that make up the spiritual community of our area. People from all over the world come, thousands and thousands of people every year for a rest, relaxation, and reflection. And it's a great, great honor for me to be able to introduce to you today one of the people that is really at the forefront of this community here and as a community builder. Her name is Dawn Fazende. My name, Andrée Morgana. And it's just, I can't thank you enough for being here today, Dawn, and for the opportunity to be able to interview you. When I moved up to Mount Shasta in 2008, I was coming from the Bay Area and I didn't know a single person up here, even though I had come up every year for many years to just go to the mountain, go to the stores downtown, go to the other recreational areas, and then go home again. And so I started to look through the internet, which was still new at that time, and I came upon Dawn Fazende. And she had a magazine called the Mount Shasta Magazine. And that was kind of my go-to spot where I learned about what was happening in Mount Shasta before I moved up here. And I was very grateful to have had that opportunity. And I've since found out that Dawn does much more than I ever thought she did, which I, at the beginning, thought she did a whole lot. So today we will kind of explore that, see who is Dawn Fazende, what's her spirituality, what are all the things that she's involved in the community. And why don't we start with just saying welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself as you see yourself here today in Mount Shasta.
I just see myself as a normal person getting involved in my community. I was surprised that you wanted to interview me at all. It just never occurred to me. So right now I do the Mount Shasta magazine email list where local people subscribe and we keep each other informed about what's going on with each other, with events, with things for sale, with the other day some said I need a housemaid or house cleaner, things like that, and people just stay in touch and they talk. That's one thing. And then right now we're preparing to do the Wesock celebration online, which will be next weekend, 7th, 8th, and 9th. We will have visitors, speakers from all over the states anyway, but a lot of them this year will be people from Mount Shasta, except for our main speaker who is in Australia. And that's been fun, trying to coordinate the times because they're 18 hours ahead of us. But we'll work it out. We'll get that done. Then I do the Meals on Wheels. I don't manage the program, but I've started the auxiliary, which consists of me. And we collect money, and I've arranged grants for them in the past. We got them a Jeep donated from Walmart. So that's been working really well. We have jars out around town. They get a check every month from us. Although not with COVID, because the jars aren't getting as much money. People aren't going out. And then we do the Thanksgiving meal every year. We feed about between 400 and 600 people every year. And one year, how, I don't know, but we fed 1,200 people.
Wow.
That was only a one-time deal. And I'm still not sure how that happened. So we're doing a lot of stuff, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. It feels like I'm just going through my life and doing what my life is calling me to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's a lot of effort, I don't have to.
Do you attribute to that to the location of Mount Shasta?
I can't say that. I don't know what I would be without Mount Shasta.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I came here, I was guided literally to be up here. Should I tell the story?
Yeah. What do you mean by being guided? Because a lot of people understand totally what you're saying, and then a lot of people that will watch this, it's kind of new language for them. And so, especially if you're talking about something that's not just here and now.
Well, I was working in Reading at a restaurant in Reading, and I was coming up to Mount Shasta pretty frequently to see my friend who lives up here, Joanna Cherry. You'll meet her later. And then suddenly I started having these dreams about a being coming out of the top of a feather. And I could not get this being to tell me what it meant, what it wanted, what it symbolized, what I was supposed to do about it. So after a month or so of this, I finally said, I'm going to call Joanna Cherry. She knows how to help plug you into these things. Well, I called her up and said, you got to help me with this. It's driving me nuts. Then when I told her about it, she just giggled. She says, that's not a being. It's a painting. It's the flyer we're going to use for the Ascension celebration up here. I think that means you need to be up here.
So you were actually seeing something that was about to take place in your mind's eye during dreaming for a whole month, and then you found out that this is something that has a reality to it.
Yeah, that was real. And then when I got up here, that was in August of '92, when I came and spent that kind of time here, because most of the time I was coming up to visit my friend. But when I started getting into the spiritual community around here, in August, it was amazing to me that all these spiritual people were here. I mean, it was all over the campground at the lake. You know, all these people were here, and they
For
were
this event, for
to
the
this
Ascension.
event. Sorry, yeah, to this event. Well, they're all here too,
Mm-hmm.
but for the event, they were there from all over the world, and I started getting, you know, feeling the mountain a little bit more. And the mountain, you know, she's a gem. She's a real gem.
So what do you mean by feeling the mountain?
I mean, you feel the presence.
Yeah.
You feel it in you. I do. I feel it in me. And if I'm away from it for too long, I just kind of feel like I need to get back and plug in again to that.
Would you say it's like a living presence you feel?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Very much so. And I think most people who come up here will find that they build a relationship with the mountain, or they're not comfortable and they move. They come up thinking they're going to be here, and when they get here, they just don't fit the frequency or something, and they leave. But you know, if you're not called, when you are called, everything opens up for you. I was told it's very difficult to move up to Mount Shasta. Well, anyway.
That wasn't your experience.
It wasn't my experience at all. And again, I was working, and in this particular place had recruited me to come and work there. And when she was recruiting me, the manager was an angel. Butter would melt in her mouth. You know how they say that. And then as soon as I got there, I had moved. I got an apartment. I was, you know,
Everything
settled.
fell into place.
Everything fell into place, except she turned into a screaming Mimi witch of a manager.
I saw that word you were about ready to utter.
Yeah, I know. It didn't come out though. And one day, after just under 3 months, a little more than 2 months of taking that from her, I was coming back from Mount Shasta feeling really high and, you know, full. And I walked to go to work, and she was sitting there waiting on me in the dining room with these papers and stuff. And she started in on me. She said, "We have to talk." And I said, "No, we don't." I took my keys, slid them across the table, and walked out. And then
So that was a big moment for you, a big change, a choice.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't going to put up with that.
That's where your
anymore.
income was coming from.
Yeah, it was. I had no income after that. But anyway, so I called my friend, Miss Joanna, and told her what had happened. I said, "I'm not working anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do." And she said, "Well, you know, I have a spare bedroom, and I could use a roommate." So
That's great.
that unfolded immediately. then, because I had only been there under 3 months, when I filed for unemployment, even though I quit.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the situation there, they gave me unemployment for the first year or so that I was here.
Amazing.
Then,
And it's interesting because, you know, this is what you'll hear from people that feel called to Mount Shasta is just things falling into place
Right.
that normally don't have a reason to be like that.
right. Well, and during that time, of course, I was meeting a lot of the locals and seeing all
Yeah.
the interesting workshops and articles of creation and crystals and you name it up here. And there was a magazine, a spiritual magazine, that came out of Sacramento. And I tried to get the local paper to do a spiritual magazine. I said,
Hmm.
you know, that's what this area calls for. And the lady who owned it was just, no, we don't do that, not doing spiritual stuff, blah, blah, blah. Well, I kept going there, and then she sold the newspaper.
Hmm.
And they brought in a new editor. And finally I decided, I took a copy of the other magazine in there, and I showed the gal at the counter all the advertising that was from Mount Shasta. And I said, you see how much revenue you're missing? And then, you know, they still said, no, go home. Then I get home, and they got a call saying the editor wants to see me. So I go down there, and she says, we will do this if you do it. I had no experience doing a magazine or anything like that, but I learned from them.
Wow, I never knew that. That's yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
So then so their involvement was in teaching you how to create a magazine.
Yeah, I mean, I got my education on doing that from them,
Interesting.
and that worked really well. We did that through them for about 4 years, and the paper got sold again to a Mormon company who, once again, didn't want anything to do with New Age. So I talked to them and I said, listen, I brought you this idea.
Yeah.
I want to take it with me when I go. And they said, fine, take it, you know. And
So that was the birth of the Mount Shasta magazine?
Yes. I took it home and
That was the
renamed
best
it.
magazine. It was big and tall, and I mean, it wasn't a little tiny 8.5 by 11.
It was a regular sized magazine.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because when I got it, I thought it was a big, tall magazine.
Well, that was your experience.
Yeah, that's right. That's interesting. But yeah, you had all that's how I got to know, you know, who the local shop people were their advertisements, who the teachers were, because they were advertising, and then you had great articles from different people, and yeah, that was very helpful, at least for me, to integrate into the community.
Well, we ran it for 9 years. You know,
Yeah, I
and
wish
then-
you still had it.
Well, that type of publication apparently does have a short lifespan.
Yeah. Well, and also everybody's gone online with so much.
Yeah,
that
everybody's
stuff.
on the line, and good for me and good for them. You know, let them get all the information. I'm not attached to being the one who gives them the information.
But that's
was
just
what I
so
was
natural
called to
for
do.
and even with your mailing list, I know people coming up to the area will say, I'm looking for a rental, this is what my requirements are, just, you know, and they often find the answer through your online mailing list.
Well, it's not online in that we have a web page. I don't want to give people
Email,
that impression.
email,
It's
right,
an
good.
email list.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can come and they can join the email list. It's, you know, I charge for it, but not very much.
No, not at all.
$25 for 6 months, and then after that, it's $9 every 2 months. So it comes out to $4.50 for, you know, the connection.
Each month.
Yeah. I forgot where I was going with that. Anyway, they come up here, they do get in touch, and we've got about 275 members, but they're all local people. And so if you want something local, you know, we're all touched and connected through that.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
I enjoy doing it too. I like knowing what's going on.
See, you are a community person, community builder. That's what you are. So how does this, if you don't mind me asking, how does this reflect a little bit more deeply on the spirituality that you came to know about when you finally moved up here? And how it was different from maybe what you had known about as you were awakening to all the spiritual activities that around our country and so on?
Well, it was more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I spent the first 3 or 4 years I was here living with Joanna, who was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she had events during the summertime every year for a while. And I was privileged to be able to participate and to help get that going and so forth. And I learned a lot from her.
Mm.
And then we also had people that were coming into town, like Jazz Maheen. She's going to be speaking at Wesak this year. She's the one in Australia. She lives on prana. She doesn't eat, and she doesn't drink, unless she gets the urge for what she calls a chocolate biscuit. Yeah, she said living the way she lives is about being in control of your body.
Mm.
And if you want to have a chocolate biscuit, have a chocolate biscuit. But then, go back to being a breatharian, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So she can travel and it doesn't affect that? Does she have to start eating food during that time or just...
I do not think so. She came,
Wow.
she stayed with Joanna and me for a while, I believe. But anyway, she was up here and with us for quite a while, a few months anyway. And she never ate anything.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing the variety of experiences that people find themselves going through once they come into this area also. I mean, that's not a commonplace activity that you see a lot of locals doing, if any.
Anywhere.
But, yeah, interesting.
Except maybe in India, because she learned it from her guru.
Interesting.
Don't ask me the name, because I do not know.
So what were sort of the like you had mentioned when you came up here about crystals and all of that, were there certain things that you felt gravitated to that were practices for you that accelerated your experience of being in this area?
Well, my teacher is Ramtha, and he's out
Okay.
of Washington.
Okay.
This area. Yeah, there's so much that goes on. I got really involved in kirtan, and I learned a lot about Hindu religion. I don't do religion. I was born and raised Catholic, and I got over that when I was 16 and started looking around. And it wasn't until I was at a Unity Church in Mobile, Alabama, and I was kind of dragged in there by another friend whose father was there. That's why we were in Mobile. And I was kind of nervous about being in another church, lightning bolts and all of that stuff. So I sat in the very last pew, way over on the edge, at the end, holding onto the arm of the pew, right near the door, in case I had to get up and run. And I stayed there, and during the course of her sermon, that minister, I don't know who she is, she didn't know me from Moses, she looked right at me and said, "You are God." And that about blew me wide open. I could feel myself, through my third eye especially, but just could feel myself just expanding, and it was an incredible experience. And then when I moved here, because that was just, okay, I'm God, so what? And then I came here.
So what, she says.
Well, so everybody is.
Exactly.
I'm not the only one.
Right.
So I came up here, and I learned from Joanna and other people, mainly Joanna, and Swami Vandana, who did the kirtan. how to be more in touch with that, and how to
Have the connection.
yeah. And Ramtha teaches how to be an independent God, how to control your life through your God, and that's pretty much what's been going on. And the mountain nourishes that and enhances that. And she just took me in.
Mm-hmm.
She did. I don't know what else to say about that. You know, it's just an amazing thing.
Well, I think one thing is that you're brave enough to come on a show like this and to sort of speak of things that are actually quite intimate. And yet at the same time, all over the world right now, people are starting to have experiences. And if someone just happens upon this interview and sees, oh my God, I've been experiencing that too, then they don't feel so isolated, even though they may be in a place that they're the only person having that experience. So that's part of what's going on now in the world today. And it does get accelerated up here. And I think you've very clearly expressed, you know, the types of experience and the intimacy of those experiences and the profundity of them.
Yeah, it's amazing. We did a meditation once, a group meditation, and for me, the whole group was taken into the mountain, into Kailash.
What's Kailash?
Mount Shiva's mountain
Ah,
in India. And we were put through all this learning, all these experiences, and in the end of this thing, he had us all in this pool of golden water. And we went up one at a time and received the blessings and the teachings. And then after all of that, he said, Mount Kailash and Mount Shasta are directly connected. This is my abode, and so is that. And then all of a sudden, we were all back in Mount Shasta, waking up, going, what the? I don't know if
where have I
everybody...
been? What have I just experienced?
Right, and for days after that, for me anyway, everything around me had this gold lining around it. So, you know, it was, I guess, his way of saying, you know what, that was a real thing.
And I think that brings to the point of one of the reasons I'm doing the Best of Mount Shasta is that people are having extraordinary experiences, and I think you definitely, you know, touched upon, you know, that aspect of it. And yet, it has to be in the days to come that science comes to understanding this and being able to grasp, you know, how it can be possible. Because it's not just you're the only person that's had this experience. This is happening there. All the people that were on that course where you went to that other mountain, everybody had that experience. What is going on? How are these awakenings happening? You know, why are they happening? And I just feel that you've been, you know, kind of a leader of in the community. You may not see yourself as that,
I don't know.
but I think people do respect you and do, you know, honor just what you, like you say, you just do sort of like very ordinary things, and yet at the same time you're having very extraordinary experiences.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, we should talk about Meals on Wheels and all of that stuff.
We have a few minutes left, so let's kind of, you know, I'm very pleased you felt comfortable enough to talk about these experiences, because I think it's important for people who are sort of wherever they are in the world and stuff, and they happen upon this video. There's a lot of people that are not connected to a spiritual community. They don't have a Mount Shasta to live in, and yet they're starting to wake up. And so this helps to reinforce what they're experiencing. And I appreciate that you've expressed that. But yes, it's true. You've got Meals on Wheels. You've got the WESAC coming up. You've got the Thanksgiving. I think the Meals on Wheels and the Thanksgiving are extraordinary activities that you've expanded, you know, like you said, the 2,100, how many meals was it for the Thanksgiving?
Well, usually we feed between 400 and, 300 to 500 people, you know, usually. But one year, and again, I have no idea because we didn't put in more food, we fed 1,200 people.
Yeah.
It was like the loaves and the fishes, but without an entity there, you know. But typically we feed, you know.
And it's not like we live in the Bay Area where there's millions of people. There's only,
Right.
a whole county only has 40,000. Mount Shasta is what's like 6,000 people.
Yeah.
So this is, a big accomplishment. We've got just a few minutes left, but do talk about both of those programs.
Well, the Meals on Wheels, I'm not involved in delivering the meals, but I am involved in supporting them in any way I can financially. We have jars around town, of course, and I have put them in touch with many grant resources where they've gotten money. Recently, they just received, and that was last year, $5,000 from someone who was connected through me, which I'm not taking credit. I'm just saying this is the line
Yeah, how it
that's been
happens.
following. They need something, they call me, they get it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
somehow or
incredible.
other. We got them a Jeep through Walmart one
Yeah,
year.
but then you mentioned that. That's fabulous. Walmart, really?
Well, they have programs where
Yeah.
they make grants and they do things like that, and they haven't done it since. But that particular year was the year they needed a Jeep, so I went through the Meals on Wheels Association of America, which now calls themselves MOA, and they had the program lined up. We got these people who will do this. If you need this, let me know. So it was no real big effort on my part. I didn't have to go digging. It was right there.
Yeah. Well, that's who you are. That's what's wonderful about you. Talk just because we're almost to the end. Just talk a bit about the Thanksgiving.
Well, Thanksgiving meal.
Because that draws a lot of people coming in to help.
We get a couple hundred volunteers every
Couple
year.
hundred. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, when I took over the Thanksgiving
We're just a
meal,
small community.
well, they all love it. That's
Yeah,
the point.
exactly. Well, and that there's just some spark of light around what you brought out to them, and they're all just coming forward.
Well, when I started doing it, it was designed only for people who were like homeless or couldn't afford a meal, and that kept the numbers very down. So when I came in, I started, we shouldn't block it. There's a lot of people that I know who won't get a meal or celebrate anyway. So we started putting it out there that it was open to everybody. Nobody would be turned away unless you're drunk or, a nuisance. And they started coming. And they have kept coming.
That's wonderful. And then the community atmosphere that you create, where they're all
Yeah.
together like that, is amazing.
Everybody gets to meet their friends and
Yeah.
talk. And I, before we do the prayer, I usually tell people, we have only one requirement. This meal is free. But one requirement is you got to talk to somebody you don't know. And
Great idea.
I
They do
don't
it, huh?
well, I'm presuming they do. They really turn out for this. They make donations to keep it going so we can buy the food, and we give away grocery bags full of food for people who need to take it home. We give away our leftovers at the end of the night. People stay long enough, they can take home leftovers from the turkey and all of that stuff. And we have music. The musicians volunteer their time. It is a community event now.
Exactly.
It really is.
Exactly.
And I love it.
Yeah. And everybody else does too.
They seem to. They keep coming back.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you would like to say or speak about in a very short period of time?
Well, we got WESOC, we got Meals on Wheels, we got Thanksgiving meal.
I like the way the WESAC format is. You have the people who are speaking the last 2 days, speaking in the beginning and talking about what they're going to be talking about, but it kind of gets the things rolling where just in one night everybody hears the whole weekend.
Yeah, well, on Friday night, we tell people to just take a half hour or 20 minutes and explain what they're going to talk about over the weekend. And then they have 2 90-minute slots, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, to expound more than what they were talking about.
Yeah, and those are become intensives, really. You know, it's not just a casual 30-minute workshop.
Right.
And, my experience is a lot of people literally walk away transformed.
Well,
And they'll speak
Good.
about it in that way,
Good.
And, it has a profound effect.
well, I'm glad.
Yeah. Be interesting to see how it'll be this year as online.
Well, we did it online last year too, and we thought, in fact, we wrote on the website, we'll see you in Mount Shasta next year. But with
Yeah.
COVID and all that other stuff that's happening, we're just gonna keep it online this year, and then maybe next year, hopefully, we can gather again at the park.
Yeah.
And in fact, for Thanksgiving, we're not going to be able to do the dinner in the park, so we're going to do just the homeless and Meals on Wheels folks. That's what we did last year.
Right.
You see, on Thanksgiving Day, we don't just feed people in the park. If you're sick, if you're unable to come to the park for any reason, we'll take the meal to you. And we had a couple hundred people last year who wanted to do that. That was our biggest year for the homebounds. So last year,
So will you include the homebounds this year, even though it's not in the park?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I think that's what we're going to do, because we can't do it in the park, and we want to do it, and people want to know it's there. And even if they can't come, they take a certain amount of pride in this Mount Shasta thing.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And they want to know that something is still being done,
Yeah.
at least to help the people who can't get
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing that, and it's definitely a we. Excuse me. All of these events, all of the stuff is definitely a we, not a me, because if one person couldn't possibly do all of this stuff.
Right. Even all the driving the meals to the people's homes.
Yeah, we have to organize that. We got to get the addresses, got to give them a map, got to give them phone numbers, and make sure that people who are receiving meals aren't just taking it because they don't want to, cook for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We on that anyway, but the idea that we open it up as a community and take care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really the reason that we wanted to continue and will continue driving to the Meals on Wheels folks and to the homebound. And we know who most of those people are because they call us every year. But even the new ones, they call. And they have to really have a reason, but people, some people make up their reasons. It's okay. It's okay.
That's right.
As long as we have enough food, it's okay. Last year we had one guy. We were stationed in front of one of the community centers buildings on Lake Street, and they had given out tickets to people to come and get their turkeys, come and get their meal, only because we needed to know how much to cook. We weren't trying to exclude anybody. And so we were there with the meals and waiting for the tickets. Plus, they were driving people around town. And this one guy showed up, and he was sitting against the wall, kind of back up an alley. But you could see him, and he was looking at us and looking at us. And someone in the car drove up and said, "Let's give one to him." And I said, "We can't do that because these meals are all spoken for." So this guy took his own ticket, got the meal, and brought it over to that man. And that guy was so grateful to get that food.
Wow.
But he still, they develop a kind of an anger when they're like that because they're the way that, because this has happened to them.
Exactly, and it's unresolved in their mind, of course.
Right.
As it should be.
But it was such a gesture on in my mind for this man to take his own meal and give it to that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did for the rest of the Thanksgiving dinners, for his Thanksgiving dinner, but I almost wanted to take him out to lunch myself.
Yeah, right.
He was gone before everything was done, so. But
Well,
that's
it's
where we live.
wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm not sure on the time we have left. My sense is we're sort of at the
Okay.
crossroads. But one thing that once we end the interview, there's some graphics that will be addressing the different things that you are involved in,
Oh.
and I think people will enjoy to read those.
Oh, good.
And I just can't thank you enough for coming here and just speaking openly and speaking heartfelt about who you are and what your experiences are. I mean, it's sort of like, hello, Don, how are you? Who are you? And you just like, it's an open book.
I am. I'm an open book.
But you lead a wonderful life up here, and I think you're an inspiration to a lot of people, and especially the spiritual experiences they're having are wonderful, and that really is this is sort of what Mount Shasta is about. It's a small community of people. There's 5 or 6 other cities in Siskiyou County. Everything's kind of small, and yet the camaraderie, the friendliness, the helpfulness exists. It's just something that I know when I lived in the Bay Area, you don't see it so clearly. Because, there's just everybody's doing all kinds of things in this direction and that direction. But up here, life does become more simple. People really kind of get into neighbors and friendships and friends and people. And I think your life exemplates it in a really fine way. And it's an inspiration to all of us.
Well, good.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that's it for the Best of Mount Shasta today. Thank you so much for joining in and meeting Dawn Fazende. And definitely when you come up to the area, seek her out, seek out her mailing list, get involved in the helping out at the Thanksgiving. By the way, that is really a great way to, when you move to this area, to get to know people. Is to volunteer and participate in one of these events, and you'll walk away knowing so many people right from that one evening.
Yeah.
And
They won't all be the spiritual people, but they will be good people.
Well, and that's the other thing I find up here is that you talk to anybody up here, and sooner or later you can get down to that spiritual level. There was one gentleman when I moved up here who helped bring me wood and was helping me unpack it. And I asked him, how many cords of wood do you cut each year? And he said 135. And I went, 135? Why? And he said, I just have to be in nature. So one way or another, everybody up here, there is a grounding of the spiritual. And the mountain really does take care of not just the spiritual community,
Right.
but it really has reached out to everybody. Some people just see it as a view from their living room window, and that's something they see every day and cherish every day, and that's as close as they get to the mountain. But there's still a friendship there. There's still an appreciation of the mountain and a gratefulness to the mountain. So it really is, this whole area in its own way has spirituality on so many different levels, and you're among the brave ones that are having these really unusual experiences that you're willing to talk about.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen every day. You still have to live your life in a way that's in accordance with the energy that you're experiencing.
Yes.
So, those things are supposed to be life-changing. They're supposed to make you look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. So yeah, you have the experience. And some people, every day they get it. Some people don't need as much. And you get the experience, and then you act. And it just starts to flow. It's just kind of who you are. It's just who I am. I'm not doing anything special. At least I don't think I'm doing anything special. It just kind of comes. So that's, to me, is also a very spiritual thing to do.
They have that ability to make life work in that way.
Yeah, and to live it, and to do something with it. And, I'm very grateful for the life that I have. very grateful.
Well, so are we. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, honey. You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you. And we have a wonderful cameraman, John, who's going to take care of ending the show for us.
Okay, John, go for it.